So part of the election process is doing what we're doing here at the absentee voter counting board. So this is part of the process of making sure that every ballot's counted. We've been going through this process since we started getting the absentee ballots back in mid-September and mailing them out on September 24th, the first big batch, and starting to get them in the mail on the 25th, and picking up in the drop boxes and getting them from the mail. And now we got to do a first time thing ever in the state of Michigan when Senate Bill 757 got passed that allowed us to do pre-processing on Monday. And then with all the election day activity yesterday, this room was filled with people, about 80-some people that were going through those pre-processed absentee envelopes and got the stubs off and got them ready for tabulation. So part of that process of that pre-processing was on Tuesday morning was we had to recount them. So everything that all the work we did on Monday, we kind of had to redo on Tuesday morning to recount all the secrecy sleeves and the envelopes. So that process took a little bit longer than we thought. It took us a little bit longer to get to tabulation. Ballots were tabulated during the whole day yesterday. Once we got to the tabulators, and then then as we got into the evening, it seemed like some of the tabulators weren't taking ballots in larger batches. So the staff's been trained how to clean the tabulators. You're putting through thousands of ballots, and that's a lot of wear and tear on those rollers. So we keep cleaning the rollers to make sure. There's a lot of dust with paper, so we clean out the dust. It still wasn't taking ballots more than 25. So that's kind of how we were running all night and into today, running them in batches of 25 through the tabulator. That seemed to be working much better than trying to put them in large batches where they would stop. So that kind of slowed down the process a little bit. So I think we were moving at a good pace, and then we were going through all the adjudication, and we were kind of caught up in that. But then it was getting time for workers were starting to say, we at 11 o'clock last night we sent all the processors home, but we still had all the tabulators going. But it was time to kind of start moving some staff, so we called some other people in that are trained election workers. We've had some people that have worked adjudication in other municipalities last night, so they're trained on that adjudication process. It takes a long time because voters have used, they can vote for write-ins, but we can only count the ones that are registered write-ins. But those ballots are stopping in adjudication for any little circle or oval that was filled for a write-in. So that's kind of the process. So part of the process is doing this, and we're working through it. There was adjustment made by the person that is our local contact for there, and we found out that there's two different size papers of ballots. There's one paper is a little thicker than another. He changed the setting, and that seems to be going a little bit faster. We're getting there pretty close. I'm not going to give any times of when we think we're going to be done. We're going to do our work and get it finished. So that's part of the process. It's not a delay. It's just that's the process that we do to do elections. I thank you all for taking the time to be here to show this. We don't usually get to see, the voters don't get to usually see the inside of an absentee voter counting board. This is what it is. This is the process that we do. So thank you.
Is there any indication of how many have been put through of the more than 59,000, and any update on how many have been rejected so far?
Well, it doesn't look like very many have. We're not exactly sure on some of the on if any, none of them are rejected, because any kind of rejections and stuff we do during processing as they're coming into our office, whether there's no signature or a voter's moved. So if they're to this point, they're going through the tabulator to be counted. We do have to make sometimes we have to make duplicates as well. Somebody spilled coffee on it. It's a ruined ballot. So that's part of it too. So that takes time too. So we're in an unprecedented time. We've never had this where we've had 59,000. We had about 35,000 voters go to the precincts yesterday. Never before have we had that flip. In 2016, it was about 69,000 to the precincts and only 16,000 absentees. So this is a whole different process, and we're also in post proposal 3. So used to be in 2016, the clerk's office on election day basically did a smaller absentee counting board, and election day was the big event. That was the Super Bowl. We're now in a 7-day World Series where we're doing same-day registrations. We're doing absentees in person for no reason. So I mean, it's great access for the voters, but it is a lot more work for the clerk's office. We're willing to do it. We're doing it. We have all the elections. We have election workers that have been coming out of the woodwork. We are so thankful for everybody who stepped up when they know that other election workers can't do the work this year. So we are so thankful for all those new workers who stepped up and did a great job yesterday. Very little problems in the city of Grand Rapids, and this is just part of the process. So thank you.
The adjudication process, Joel.
Yeah.
How does the final say? Who has that final say, or is it a compromise?
It's a compromise between a Republican and Democrat election worker. So they have the final say, and so it's a public process. So challengers are watching the process of how they're making their decisions. So it's kind of a verbal decision, and you could say somebody wrote write-ins on all of those. It's gonna stop. So it's stopping on every ballot that has something that, and what we're finding out is a lot of voters, even though I've said it, I've said it, Secretary Benson said it, Clerk Lyons has said it, fill in your ovals. Well, we're finding out a lot of voters did not fill in their ovals. They're making little check marks, which makes it an ambiguous mark. So the system doesn't know whether, there's a certain percentage of the oval that needs to be filled. So they can vote that. If we didn't have this digital adjudication, we would be doing all of this by hand with a caller and a marker, someone marking the ballot, and that would have taken a lot of ballots as well. So this is a faster way. It seems slow, I know, for you that have been watching this all day, but I'm so glad that you had interest in this, and so once again, if we had to do this a different way, if we didn't have digital adjudication, we would be doing this 50, all these different kind of marks one by one.
Joel, in Pennsylvania, they said that the process is moving as expected. Is this how you guys expected, knowing that you had so many mail-in ballots? Is this sort of a hiccup that you didn't expect, or did you expect
I wasn't not expecting to be putting 25 ballots through at a time. That was not an expectation. When we did our testing, I think paper makes a big deal. So we had one kind of paper style for our first ballots are out. Then we saw that what voter turnout could be, so the county ordered more ballots, and the vendor sent it with a little bit thinner stock because they weren't planning on them being used for absentees. But we had so many absentees that we started for some precincts using that stock so we can make sure that every voter got a ballot. So it's just a little bit of different paperweight. So the sensor was reading it just a little bit differently.
Do you have an updated message for legislators? You've advocated for more time than the 10 hours from Monday. After going through this, being here now, being still here, in a new change of clothes, but still haven't slept, what's the message to our legislators?
Well, thank you for noticing, first of all. Thanks. And I like this because these maps now cover 5 o'clock shadow. So this is fantastic. So so for the message for the legislators, thank you. The clerks, thank you. We've been asking for more time. I know Secretary Benson's been asking for more time, and so and former. I hope they find out it was a good process for them. It was a great process that we could get the envelopes opened, and we could get to that part. The part of having to recount after we just did that, I mean, our workers swore an oath that they were going to follow the rules, follow the laws, but to have to go do it again, it just didn't seem to make sense, and that really, we didn't start where we would have started, but we could have got ballots to the tabulator a lot faster.
So would it be easier if Michigan could become a state to tabulate absentees prior to Election Day?
Oh, that would make things a lot easier. It'd be more beneficial. The one thing that you have to remember, all these things that have added ease for the voter to vote has also added an extreme amount of cost to local governments as well. So we'll do the work, we'll make things for the voters, but there is absentee ballots is a fiscal impact. I mean, look at what we got going on here. Look at the people we have. Look at all the equipment we have. When you had 69,000 people go in the polls, the voter did all the work. They went to the polls. They put their ballot through the tabulator. We're doing all the work for them. Plus, we're mailing out. We're doing postage back and forth 2 or 3 times. So it's great that we're giving more access to the voter, but I think the voters need to understand that there's a fiscal impact for this too. But we'll do the work. That's what clerks do.
Any other questions?
Again, you have no timeline on when you're going to be done.
I don't have a timeline. So as I've said all along, this is the process. So when we're finished and we send the results to the county, that's when we'll be ready. Because I don't want to say anything and then something happened to a piece of equipment.
Joel, do you have an average time for adjudication, like how long it takes for a typical ballot?
I don't, because every ballot's just a little bit different. So it can be as quick as like a quick scan and say, oh, there's no. They voted for all the write-ins, and there's no candidate's name, so we don't have to look for it. So there are registered write-ins. There's about 5 registered write-ins for president, a couple for U.S. Senate, a couple for U.S. House, and for 15th County Commission District. So if there's something in those races, we have to look and see if it's one of those, because we don't want to take away a vote from a write-in.